Hi, guys.
Hi.
So usually we call this the graveyard shift because it's the one just after lunch. Mag is full, och is toe. So this part of our session is all about you. And it's about you, our GradStars, and us having the opportunity to share some of our experiences and to mentor you guys as best as we can in the time provided. So we're going to do a quick intro and let you guys know who we are and hopefully spend the next hour getting to know who you are. So I'm Trevelene, currently from a professional perspective. I am the manager of debt review operations in Standard Bank. On a personal level, mum to two, wife, and on an entrepreneur level, I am a neuro coach and a woman speaker, if you want to call it, as well as a mentorship program owner outside. So there's a lot of exciting things going on, but the most recent excitement I can talk about is winning the 2019 Rising Star Award in the banking and financial sector. So I'm honored to be here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Foli. I'm also one of the Rising Star winners. I won in the construction and industrials sector. I work as a test engineering manager for Gibela Rail. That is a train manufacturing company that we're building. Well, we are working on the PROSA project where we are building new trains to replace the old yellow metro trains. Very exciting project and good to be here. Thank you.
So greetings, Barika, greetings with all of you. Koketso Marishane, I'm the Youth Envoy for Marishane Authority. In my professional environment, of course, I'm also the Youth Ambassador for South Africa. One of the most recent achievements has been, of course, winning the Rising Star Award in the private sector, public-private sector. So thank you. And in my private life, of course, I'm an uncle to the most gorgeous people in the world. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Thomas Mofolo. I'm the winner in the Rising Star Media and Advertising category. I run my own digital communications consulting agency called Mofolo Media Marketing Communications. I work with startups and emerging talent, just helping them establish their digital presence online and grow their audience.
So seeing as our time's not very long, we don't want to be prescriptive about what we bring to the table. Today is about you. So we'd like to open the floor to questions. If there's anything that we can help you with, we've got Rising Star winners in the room, as well as Rising Star alumni, who's going to help us to make sure that we give you the best tools, the best answers, and the best nuggets. What was that? The nuggets? So that you can go home feeling fulfilled.
Yeah, I would. So, a question I have now, in the field of digital marketing, especially in South Africa compared to like more developed countries, SEO is something that they take very importantly.
Yeah.
Now, a question I have for you is, how does being an SEO expert like play in South Africa? Like, is it a good idea to do it in South Africa, or is it a better idea to like develop the skill set elsewhere and then bring whatever it is back home? Like, how big is the market on that?
Sure. So for those of you in the audience that might not know the industry jargon, SEO is an acronym for search engine optimization. So it's usually a strategy that a lot of businesses deploy to increase their rankings in web page, namely Google, Yahoo, or Bing. So just to answer his question about any young professionals in here who might be wanting to enter into the digital marketing space and are looking at building up their SEO skills, I'd definitely say that it's definitely a skill that you need and one that is going to only grow exponentially in its value to businesses in South Africa, because as we've seen over the past 5 years or so with the industrial revolution that we're in, as everyone's talking about, everything's going online. So many businesses that were traditionally brick and mortar businesses are now migrating online. And usually businesses only have two approaches to getting more clients online. It's either pay-per-click advertising or SEO, like leveraging search terms and phrases related to the industry to try gain traffic to their store. So if there's anyone in here who's looking to just build a career to help businesses leverage that sort of functionality, I definitely say it's worth tapping into now. Like, one thing I would say is, compared to like the Western markets, which are much more developed, I'd say it'd be a more competitive advantage for young people to start learning all the latest advanced tools, because back in the day, it was really simple when, you know, Google first launched in the 2000s or whenever, for people to achieve first page rankings just like that. But now it's a marathon. It takes months, 9 months up to a year to even get to the 5th page, and people don't even go to the 5th page. You know, the first page and the first few results are really where the party's at, but it takes time and consistency to get there. But if you can learn the tools that have already started innovating, you know, their own platforms for how to master it quickly, then you're going to be valuable to any business, because at some point or another, every business is going to want to leverage search engines to get more clients.
I recently started a blog, and it was like I knew nothing about it, and SEO has been like a struggle for me, because I was looking at online platforms where you can learn more about it, and that's what I want to ask you about. Would you suggest that I don't know, enroll on like some kind of online course, because they're quite expensive? I think the cheapest one I saw was like 10,000 Rand for, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks. Or no, a few weeks, but still, as a student, that's not something that's part of my budget right now. Or would you suggest like just spending hours and hours on YouTube? Like, will that be sufficient?
I would say, you know, depending on your own level of confidence, if you feel like you've already kind of got a grasp of the concept, then it might be more beneficial to just teach yourself. Like, so much of the Internet of Things and the technologies that are emerging are intuitive if you've been using the Internet for quite some time. They don't really require you to go take a short course for X amount of months and finally learn how to do that. So many people complain, who I've spoken to, that they signed up for this digital marketing course or enrolled in this online short course and didn't get anything. It told them things that they already knew. So it would really be, the onus would be on you to do your due diligence on exactly what level of expertise you're going to get in there that you might not already know. But if you kind of more or less understand the concept, then it's very easy to just build that skill over time. Like, I'm sure as we've been hearing throughout the day, like, learning is an ongoing journey. And I, at this point in my career, still watch so many tutorials, do short courses just on these topics, because they're constantly evolving and fastly changing. So maybe just give it like a month of just trying to teach yourself and being self-taught and seeing if you've derived any value from that. And if you still feel like you're a bit insecure about, you know, bringing that skill into the workplace, then maybe look to investing in a course that can help you build the confidence you need to say, yeah, I know this really well, and I can sell it or help other people apply it.
So my question is actually, how does one become a rising star? Maybe someone already asked this, but sorry, I just want to clarify. And then, basically, what did you prepare? And, like, you know, what did you get? What preparations did you guys have to go through? You know, yeah. Thank you.
How do you become a rising star? The awesome part about it is you are nominated, either by leadership or a colleague within your organization. And like the GradStars go through a process, it allows for a process to be followed with various levels of submission. Earlier you heard that one of it was a video. So I guess it tries us and tests us on our abilities to try new things. Personally, I've had 20 years of work experience, 14 as a leader. But this specific process taught me what the difference between a leader and a manager is. So 14 years ago, I got my first manager title, but literally a few months ago, do you evolve to know exactly what it means to be a leader? And this process enables you to put yourself in the shoes, but also to understand whether or not you are future fit. Because we've got to be ready to lead you guys. You've constantly got to reinvent yourself. And I think for me, that was the awesome opportunity and what it takes to be a rising star. To be someone who's not afraid to go out there and try something new and be the change. To go out there and push the boundaries and test the limits. And I think it could have taken me 20 years to get here. But I see the youngsters sitting next to me. And I don't think it's about the number of years of experience, but rather the courage that you put behind taking that bold step. Because when you agree to be on this kind of platform, you've got to agree that you're going to give everything that you have to use the opportunity to make an impact and a difference.
I agree 100% with you. And something that just came to my mind is, sure, you get nominated, and the process, it's not a teaching process in that they give you information and then you have to cram it and answer the questions. It's a very big introspection process where you look at it and say, they ask you, how do you deal with this in the workspace? How do you deal with this? So it's not a case of, let me Google the answer. They ask you, what exactly did you do? So if there's a conflict in the work environment, how do you deal with that? If your manager asks you to do something that is unethical, how do you deal with that? So it's not, you have to do this, you have to say no, they ask you for an example, what are you doing? So it's a conscious process of looking into yourself, how do I behave? And at the end of it, you actually see, if you get to this level and just being nominated, actually, you do see that potential in yourself, and at the end of the day, you're able to identify the fact that, I'm not just every other person, there's actually something special in me. Yeah.
So from my experience, I'll say, it was both an honor and a privilege. And since I'm here, I must also just say it's a humbling privilege. It was literally testing my everyday work. What I do is I write, I'm a writer. Whether for public consumption or private consumption, it doesn't matter. But it was testing my practicality on paper. Can I live the work that I say I do on paper? When I say I'm going towards that car, can I write it down in that order? So that was how the whole process unfolded. Am I making sense? And the most challenging or rather thrilling feature about the whole process was me having to record a 2-minute video. I recorded almost 20 videos, and I told the person that was helping me that, I'm not satisfied with this. Do it again. Until I got to a point where I was, okay, fine, this represents me. I can actually go forward with this. Thank you.
For myself, the most challenging part of the Rising Star assessment is probably like the final stage where you actually sit down with the panel of judges from these amazing companies like Accenture and Investec, and they really grill you about what you do and get a level of understanding of whether or not you have what it takes to truly excel and become a leader in that space. So for me, it wasn't a walk in the park at all. Headed up to Accenture's head office, and they had a case study prepared for us just based on, work that they were probably doing, and just wanted us to share insights and ideas about it. And then after that, talk to us individually to find out how, we responded and why we gave the answers that we did to solving that problem. And for me, one thing I would say that helped me get a edge over the other people I was competing with in my category was just being progressive and having ideas. I think as South Africans, we tend to be a bit risk averse and don't want to, jump the gun in introducing very radical ideas. But for me, as we were talking, the panel just seemed to be very receptive to the things I was saying. They weren't really the most conventional ideas. So I would just say, just don't limit yourself to whatever the current prevailing thoughts are within your space. If you really have, unconventional and new ways and approaches of your area of expertise, then by all means, just be confident in putting those forward and speaking about them. And yeah, hopefully there's people who are as crazy as you to help implement those ideas.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Nirvana, and firstly a big congratulations to all four of you on such a well-deserved award. I think you all are probably near to the pinnacle of your careers, and to be inspired by you is a great honor, so thank you.
Thank you.
I'm from a corporate environment, so that's just a disclaimer. I'm not one of the top 100 students here. But what I would imagine is this: there are a lot of students that are needing to bridge the gap now between leaving university, whether it's at an undergraduate, honors or master's level, and moving into a corporate environment. Now, if you can reflect on yourselves when you were at that point, transitioning from sort of tertiary education into a corporate environment, I'm sure there were a number of challenges that you had faced. Could you maybe share with the rest of the room how you sort of transcended those challenges and what you experienced, and what was the lesson that you took out of that?
All right. So I actually went to school twice. For my first undergrad, it was a BA in Communications and International Relations, and I dropped out, and I started working immediately from there. It wasn't anything related to what I do now, but that early experience, just doing that work that I was doing at the time, just gave me a lot of exposure to the working environment and corporate culture. So that was one advantage that came from that. Obviously, not every student here might opt to go that route. So that was that one option. The second time around in school, I did graduate. I went to Vega. It's an advertising school here in South Africa, and really, upon graduating, they facilitate you in bringing all the major recruiters within the advertising space to come check out all the latest students' portfolios and the work they've been doing, so that they can already be that assimilation between employers and work and nurturing talent and bringing them into the corporate environment. So right after graduating, it was a complete... It was like a cultural shock, to be honest. I graduated cum laude and thought, oh, wow, I'm going to ace it as soon as I get into an ad agency. And there's this advertising agency in Bryanston called Havas. So they'd come to Vega one of these days and just gave a presentation on how great they were, yada, 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 this, that, and the third. And I went to go intern for them shortly after. And thank God I had a mentor. And he's an established industry icon. His name is Ivan Moroke. He's a former CEO of some of the leading agencies in the country. So that experience was instrumental in me understanding how the working space works and how corporate culture works, because thank God, I used to sit more or less 2 desks away from him. So it was like an agency within an agency. So the division or the department I was working in was the one that was headed up directly by him. And every day I'd walk in, I'd see him. Every day walk out, see him. And we'd just have a chat. And I never really felt oh, wow, this place is just too daunting for me. I don't know if I've got what it takes to stick it out here. But over time, he just built my confidence and gave me a lot of work just to sort of get my feet wet and how things are done. And that's an advantage that, unfortunately, not most young people leaving school, getting into the workplace, get. So I was fortunate enough to have him so close to me, giving me insight and pouring into me every day, everything he knows, so that by the time I did venture off into starting my own agency, it was more or less like a no-brainer. It gave me the confidence to sit in the meetings with big shots and be able to hold my own as well and say, well, I agree here and I don't agree. And yeah, I mean, I still refer back to a lot of my textbooks and stuff just for more general topics and stuff like that. So as everyone's been saying, don't quit learning and try get a mentor. And yeah, don't go there with the confidence just thinking that because you're in the top 100, it's going to be a cakewalk, because it's a whole process of relearning. Everything they taught you just more or less goes out the window because you realize the curriculums that are still in place in this country are quite outdated. So I think one of the students said it best earlier on, that it teaches you how to think, but not more or less how to do the job. So once you get in there, just start from scratch and reset, and don't take it as a blow to your academic accomplishments, because you guys have done a really great job by getting here as well.
Well, in my space, I'll say I wasn't necessarily, creme de la creme, academically speaking. Though, come to practice, I will show you magic. I'm surviving on 5 pillars. I have cheerleaders, I have mentors, I have coaches, I have friends, I have peers. So if whatever I do, if my cheerleader is silent, I know there's something wrong that I'm doing. Then I run to my mentors. They tell me, okay, this you could have done much better. And the coach will say, okay, fine, this is how you do it. My peers and friends will be like, okay, fine, now that you've achieved this, what's the next step? We go party first, then we focus on the road ahead. But coming back into the workplace, I'll say I'm privileged, and I'm still very privileged right now, because I come from a community where my parents are, or rather my family is literally responsible for the whole community. It's a traditional community kind of setting. So whatever issues that needed to be addressed within the community, my family was there. And because of also they prioritized education, I was rather forced. I grew up literally in a library environment where I say, Dad or Mom, I need a holiday. Motivate why you think you need a holiday. So whatever I did or whatever I wanted, I had to write it down. Mom, I need a pair of shoes. Okay, motivate why you think you need that. So literally, education-wise, that helped me a lot, because I'll come back from school and I know, okay, fine, I will not necessarily be the same with other kids in the community. I'll be forced to study. And I'll report back to my parents what I had studied at school. So that is the kind of setting that I literally grew up in. And so getting into the workplace, I think I started working formally at the age of 19, 20, occupying a very senior post in the Popo province as the provincial project manager for another SOE that side. At the age of 20, I was working alongside people aged 40 plus, so I was literally the youngest team member there. And that somehow gave me the confidence to say, whatever you're doing at this stage is giving you the foundation to nurture, to flourish. And surprisingly, the person who wrote my reference letter for this award is the very same boss that was my team member there. So that showed me that the kind of relationship managing that I do in my professional and personal space is actually working out. And I still managed to tell them, you know what, even I think for most colleagues that I've worked with in the past, I am so rest assured that not a single one of them will say anything negative about me. That's how I've been portraying myself in the workplace. Is there anything I'm missing? Okay, cool.
On my side, transitioning into the work environment, I think the moment I got my job, after the interview, I immediately got frightened because I thought, when I get there, they're going to expect me to deliver something, and I will not know what to do. So that was my first fear. Because you get a job, I was hired as a test engineer, fresh from varsity. I'd already forgotten everything I'd studied, because you learn to pass the exam. It's a reality. you shouldn't, but it does happen. So when I got my job, I was like, oh Lord, what am I going to do there? But the great thing is you don't really have to know exactly what you're going to do when you get there. There's usually some kind of training program or induction or something. They don't throw you straight into the deep. So that's just the first place where you can be comforted that you don't need to worry about having to go in first day and deliver, because they will bring you up to speed before they expect you to work. That's one. And then, okay, my project, where I work, we manufacture trains, like I mentioned, and I knew nothing in the industry. But a very important thing that I took away from it is, and like you mentioned, you don't stop learning. You may have passed university with cum laude or whatever, but your first day on the job, you know nothing. So take in and absorb as much as you can from whoever you can, whether it's who to ask for what information, or how does this work, or rather be irritating and just find out as much information as you can, because you will need it one day. Even if you don't know or understand what they're saying, you will know who to go back to when things start making sense. So it's very important to stay open to learning things, and not necessarily just learning in your department. Visit another department. If they have something that interacts with your department, work on that. Know what everyone else is doing, just so that you become versed with what your department does and its interactions outside, and also just to improve yourself as a person. So it's very important to try and learn and be intentional about wanting to learn. Because I've found, having worked with a lot of interns, people are very passive and they just sit and wait for you to give them something to do. And it's the easy route to do, because, I mean, you are nervous, you don't know anyone in the environment. But if you just need to take that one step and just ask someone, okay, what are you doing? Can I help you? Or what do you do? Or just push yourself and always assist someone, at least at the beginning, because it allows you to be able to see what's going on. I think that's my advice.
So I haven't had the experience like my panel colleagues here. I come from being in a family who couldn't afford to send me to university. So at the beginning, for the last 4 years of my high school career, I spent every holiday and weekend at the government hospital because I wanted to be a radiographer. So that's what I did on a voluntary basis for 4 years. Finished matric, got the grades I wanted, and my dad could never afford to send me. And so you do what every good daughter does, and you go find a job. And that's where it started. And your little jobs become opportunities for you to identify whether or not this is what you want to do. And every time you move from one job to the other, it breaks you a little more when you just don't have that piece of paper. And so I went into HR. And after doing HR for 10 years, I thought, it didn't hit home. It was ticking the boxes, but there was something that was different. And then I moved into banking and into the service industry. And you think, every day I go home and I've helped another customer or 10 customers. And then there's something more. And so when we talk about transition, for me, I wouldn't necessarily say from university into your next job. I think you transition with every choice, every career move, every new opportunity, every role. Currently, I am a coach. I'm a coach at work because coaching is a future fit leader skill. And so Standard Bank makes sure that all of our managers and leaders are coaches. But outside of that, I'm a neuro coach. And the reason this helps me as an individual is because it's been proven that the skills you walk into a job with will not be relevant 3 years after you started. We are evolving, and I mean, you've heard Generation X, Generation Y, millennials, perennials. The world changes. The one thing I can say to you is it's so important to raise your hand. Part of the transition into anything new means that there's a great opportunity to learn. And learning only comes from an openness to accept that you might not have all of the answers. And I think in saying that, to agree with what my colleagues are saying, to have a mentor is very important. The other thing about it is that mentors teach you the best way to do what they know how to do well. So if I know how to do something really well, and I mentor you, I'm going to teach you how to do what I do really well. To be the next generation of really great leaders, I urge you to take what they do really well and make it your own. And if there's one thing that will help you to transition, is to make every opportunity uniquely yours. Go out there and be the person that asks the question. And this is the one thing I've learned, guys. Never go anywhere without a book and a pen. I learned something important from Grace today. And her words were, what was it? Is this world different because I have lived? And I think, how impactful is that? So to be able to take down everything that you learn from someone, and especially if you're going into a new work environment, every time you ask someone a question, go jot down the question and the answer. Try it and test it and go back and show them how you've done it better.
My name is Penyuma Bukela. Thank you so much for the great insights so far. So I have 2 questions. I don't know if that will be a problem. And so just to give a bit of a background, so there was an article I put on LinkedIn a couple of weeks back. The title is Why You Should Drop Out of Schooling, right? I encourage you to check it out. A bit of a few surprises there. So my first question would be, what do you see the role of digital learning being for the 2020 to 2025 graduate, right? You've spoken a bit about how ongoing learning is important, and you also touched a bit on how curriculum can be updated at the rate of change that we are seeing around us, right? And in addition to that question, is education limited to formal schooling? Looking at where we're going now, where we're becoming a global it's like we're becoming digital citizens, right? Opportunities are opening across the world to learn different things. So is education limited to formal schooling, right? So my second question would be, in your opinions, what would be the impact of online personal branding and being a digital citizen to us who are sitting here? To say, do you see it as something that, let me not try and limit it, but what do you think the impact of having an online personal brand is for us who are sitting here today? Thank you.
So with regards to the last question you asked about the importance of online branding and how that, affects your career, I'd say it like this, like at the rate at which innovation and information is filtering through to our lives, it's just beneficial for anyone, really, who's an expert in any topic, to be creating content and sharing their insights around their career. So, for example, myself, in my own career, like a lot of the things that I've come to learn might not necessarily come from a teacher, but from other professionals like myself who were influencers and personal brands in their own industries that were just creating general content on LinkedIn or any other professional platform saying, hey, these are the new ideas we're implementing in our workplace, and this is how it's working. I think that term influencer has also become a bit bastardized because people tend to associate it with Instagram models and just getting paid to fly around and do nothing, which really and truly isn't the essence of what it's about. It's really about leveraging your voice as a professional and sharing insights and thought leadership in what you do on whatever available channels you have. So a CEO of a company, or even, a PA who could be figuring out new and exciting things in her role that are helping her achieve better results, could share so much more valuable insight about that and share it on Twitter or whatever platform to help 1,000 or 1,000,000 other PAs. And that's using influence in the right way. Now, with regards to formal education and the place of digital education in the workplace. So that's quite a very controversial topic because everyone's questioning the value of education today, and I think it's very pertinent for liberal arts subjects, so anyone doing humanities, history, literature, geography, any of these subjects, that there really is a big question mark over those industries, unlike others like law or engineering or medicine, which are really sciences and practices where you have to go get taught. These other liberal arts professions, I personally don't think you do need a 4-year degree to excel in that. Like in the work that I do in advertising now, education has just been beneficial in teaching me how to think. Like the formal classroom sessions we had just opened my mind up to different ways of approaching different ideas and topics. But with regards to the actual work itself, like anybody could write copy. Anybody could shoot a video if they know how to operate a camera decently without having to go to a film academy to learn how to shoot a decent ad. Anybody who's mildly, capable of using Illustrator could create a logo as well. And I'm not trying to dismiss any of these skills as like useless, but as far as like a 4-year degree where you're paying, I don't know, 100,000, however much education is per annum these days to get into that field and say it's your career, it's highly questionable. I know plenty of creatives who are self-taught and get paid way higher than professionals who are formally trained and qualified at top institutions. But again, if you're in the room with someone who's equally competitive as you in whatever you do, and you're uneducated and they're educated, then they just have that much more advantage over you as well, So it's varied in how you can look at it, but I would say that, every individual just probably needs to introspect before investing in any more formal education, because like we've been saying, things are evolving so fast. Schools are catching up. They're not adapting at the rate at which things are changing. And contrarily to what was said earlier on about doing your undergrad at school and doing your undergrad online and doing your postgrad at school, for me, I would say, from within my industry, how I see the trend generally going is that postgrad just seems to be all digital now. As far as like the communications and media industry is concerned, a lot, even in the States, you see it in the top Ivy League schools as well, like Columbia, Harvard, Oxford, they're all offering postgraduate level degrees online now for people within my sort of space to continue their further education and learning. And those are really top tier schools which cost a lot of money as well. So it really is, again, on the individual. The onus is on the individual to do the due diligence to say, is this £49,000 or $80,000 I'm going to be paying to this school for this online degree going to equip me with something that's really going to make me better? Or is it just going to be a nice little section on my resume that just grants me favor in an interview with an employer or recruiter? So there's no black or white answer to that. But, I mean, if you have the money, yeah, why not?
I think just to add on that, it also, like he mentioned, it depends on what industry you're trying to get into. And fortunately or unfortunately, in some cases, your formal education is what gets you into the door. If you don't have that certificate or degree or what, you stand no chance. unfortunately or fortunately. But like I said, I think it just gets you into the door. After you're inside, it's what you pick up on the job from people, self-study online and so forth, that will keep you and also make you more valuable to the organization. That's what I think, yeah.
Well, I feel my colleagues are rather compromising. I am pro, disruption. All these high walls of high learning institutions, I feel that, in our current generation, in our current era, they are just overrated. I'm pro online learning. When I get to the practical phase, well, fine, I'll go to the industry. Because at the end of the day, the value of education is to make you an unusable cadre. That's it.
Okay.
What's the function of education? Isn't it to precondition you for development? So I think we need to have frank conversations about the value of education in this country and how people are using that in the global sphere, because we're not necessarily competing against ourselves as South Africans now, we are competing against globalization.
Okay. I think just to touch on your point about the role of digital learning going forward. I think in a world where we're constantly looking for convenience, I speak for myself. I have a full-time job. I'm a wife, I'm a mom. Currently, I'm doing my practical training online because there is no time. There's no time to sit in a classroom. There's no time to do the typical learning. But in some instances, social learning has proven to be the most impactful type of learning. And it's important when you have different views and different opinions around the same topic that helps you to learn. So I guess it also depends on the pace of an individual and the learning style of an individual. And definitely true, the content of what you're learning is probably going to be what dictates. I have a view that our next level of educators are coming out with a completely different concept of what learning enables. And we've seen it already in the workplace, and I can say to you now, social learning is probably going to be one of the biggest aspects. So your theory, you can get it on your books and you can get it online. But the actual readiness to be able to put that into practical use is definitely going to come from an application of social studies.
Trevelene, I've got a question for you. You mentioned a point earlier about mentorship, and I just want you to expand on that a little bit. Keeps coming up, this thing about the importance and significance of mentorship, but very rarely do we get given practical tips about how to navigate the mentorship relationship. Who has the responsibility and accountability of bringing what to that relationship and to that engagement? How do you prepare for a mentor? How do you find a mentor? So maybe you can just talk us through your experience, your understanding of how, as students, because most of us are students here, you find that mentor. How do you build the relationship, and what do you bring? How do you prepare for a mentorship conversation?
Okay. So I'm going to answer this in two different ways. One, I'm going to answer it as a coaching professional, and secondly, from a leadership perspective. In the workplace, as a leader, it becomes very important to create an environment that promotes learning and growth, but one that is built around a trust relationship, where the person that is being mentored trusts wholeheartedly that the person that is mentoring is just as invested in their career and their growth, both personally and professionally, as they are themselves. When you ask about ownership, I think it's twofold. As an individual, you must have a passion to grow and to develop yourself. And as a mentor, you need to take on that responsibility seriously. You need to understand the importance of how your behavior, your actions, and ultimately your words impact an individual. Very often you look at who are our first mentors outside of a family environment, and that's our teachers. early schoolhood teaches us the importance of how we as individuals can learn and develop and the potential to do so. And that is unfortunately not the setting that happens in the corporate environment. You don't have someone that stands there and teaches you and does repetition until you are able to understand it. It's the same with university. You have a lecturer that comes and delivers some content, and the onus of taking it and understanding it lays with us. So I think in a work environment, it's very important from a mentorship perspective. It must be documented firstly. It's very important from a succession planning perspective. It's very important where you've got someone that has all of the ability to be the next great individual leader, specialist, but those who are not actually ready now. That is when mentorship and coaching becomes an important aspect to get the person ready for their next step. What does it take to actually find a mentor? I think firstly, it's about someone who's knowledgeable, especially if it's in an area that you are wanting to grow into. I would never recommend that your direct line manager or the person that you directly report to become a mentor, because their role by nature is to coach you. And coaching and mentoring are two very different things. So your mentor should never be the person that you report to. Your mentor should be someone that is knowledgeable enough, but yet open enough to understand that you see things differently, and open enough to guide you to be able to explore your version of how you see the world. In addition to that, a mentor needs to definitely lead by example. You know, very often you find someone who's great at what they do, but their behavior is not so great. And unfortunately, when you appoint somebody as a mentor, you want them to take that seriously. And for someone who doesn't live up to the kind of leader that you want to be, it should immediately spark a concern for you, because they're not going to be as committed to getting you to your next step. On a professional front, as I said, coaching and mentoring are two very different things. Mentoring, by classification, is where, like I said earlier, you learn how to do something greatly from someone who's already done it greatly. Very often now, when you look at how we groom people in the workplace, it takes on the role of mentorship, but I think it borderlines from a coaching perspective, because very often you coach and you guide somebody to do something a little bit differently. So when you're going out and you're looking for somebody that is really going to impact your career and really going to grow you as an individual, it's important that you set the boundaries up front. And to kind of understand or make the person understand what it is that you actually want out of the relationship. It's very much like dating. So when you go out on your first date and you sit across the table and you look at them in the eye over the candlelight and you think, oh, I don't know where this is going. And just like that, if you don't explore the opportunities of not only what you can learn, but also how you can learn and how you can grow. A mentorship relationship can go on for 6 months and you walk out of there not having grown any wiser. So if you had to ask me what do I look for in a good mentor, for me it's going to be someone that is going to help me to shift myself through a series of quality thinking, someone who's going to test my ability to think differently, someone who is going to make me question myself, the limiting beliefs and the boundaries that I've set up for myself, and someone who's going to impart knowledge and skill that is going to not only benefit me in the today, but that's going to make me ready for being able to pass it on. A great piece of advice I got when I started my real career was always be a sponge. And I could never understand why a sponge. And they said the sponge can only absorb so much before it needs to be squeezed out. So your role as a person in a leadership environment is to absorb knowledge, skill, experience, and to pour it out into someone else so that they can go on and pass that on, whilst you just become a dry sponge again. And that is what a mentor does. It fills you up. It's somebody who is going to pour in stuff that is worth keeping. Do you guys want to add to that?
I think you've said everything.
Did I answer you, Naledi?
Hi.
Hello.
So my question is related to volunteering and sort of civil society or community organization involvement. I wanted to know what your experience has been with that and if it's impacted your career path or your career development in any way.
I didn't get that properly.
Yeah, so I did some volunteer work like back in my teens, but it was really just to help a relative out that had a nonprofit. Looking back at it now, it hasn't had a direct impact on my career per se or the trajectory it's on. I see a lot of people on their LinkedIn bios just listing all the volunteering, social community work they've done. And, you know, if it's related to the industry you're in or you're working for some sort of humanitarian organization, then that kind of stuff is always going to lend a great deal towards, you know, advancing your career. Or even if it's not necessarily tied to social impact, if you job shadowed, which could kind of be considered as volunteering your services just to observe people and be a sponge, as we've heard.
If you want opportunities, you better be qualified for those, because I can easily source them out and give them to you. It's all about how are you setting yourself to meet your needs. Because yes, I am exposed to global opportunities, but they need somebody who will be well-centered to take them.
Okay, so I'm an engineer, but I work currently in manufacturing, and like I mentioned, we're building trains. And in that area, I would say that the future of what we're doing is to improve the industry of South Africa in that area of transportation, public transportation. We know public transportation, is a big issue. It's a major issue. If the taxis shut down the roads, no one's going anywhere. So with the improvement of industrial improvement, where we can set up more reliable and safer public transport, it becomes easier for people to be able to have access to that and to be able to go about their daily lives. For me personally, and my input to that, or my contribution to that, is more from an empowerment perspective. I'm very big on supporting other people to reach at least where I am, and then for them to flourish. So on improving myself and getting people under me who will learn and grow in that same kind of environment and assist where I can, almost like the word you sponsor, to sponsor other people to get to where I am and propel them forward. So I'm more for let's all get on the bus kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. Myself personally, being in the banking industry is a tough industry at the moment, but I'm specifically in the debt review space. And knowing where our economy is going, I think it's a great opportunity to be in a place where you can influence someone positively. I'm not sure if you guys have heard with the new credit bills being passed and the opportunities to write off debt, and the new bill for debt intervention for lower income earners. And being in our position, and you see the state of our economy and where our customers are, my opportunity right now is to make a positive difference in every customer's journey to become debt-free. Because debt in itself is probably a huge reason behind a lot of our problems at the moment. Our suicides, our depressions, a lot of the living conditions of our next generation, the inability to afford education. It comes from poor management of debt. And where I'm now is a great opportunity for us to keep educating, for us to try our best and make a positive impact with everyone we come into contact with.
Yeah, for me that's a difficult one. Like one of the alumni said earlier on, South Africa is just hard to describe because it's not quite first world yet and it's not quite third world either. So with regards to like the context specific to my industry, there's some areas where I feel like they really just are so far behind. And I think that's more on the strategic side in adopting best practices. But on the creative side, I think they're world class, you know? But again, as far as like my contribution towards that's going to be, I think it's just leading by example in my industry. Like, so as far as like my business is concerned right now, I'm pioneering more into tech just because a lot of the competencies and capabilities needed for my job are being replaced. So I'm just getting to a place where really I want to be a leader and an example for other young people coming into the communication space to start approaching more of a data scientist and, you know, tech mindset to how they really start solving clients' problems as opposed to just leveraging their creativity or their critical skills, because that's not enough. That's not going to cut it going forth in the future.
Okay. So our time's up. I encourage you to visit the Rising Star Awards website. Our names are on there. So if you would like to reach out, make contact with us, find us on LinkedIn, so that we can continue the conversation on a different platform. So for those of you traveling, go well, and I'm going to hand you over.
Cool. Thanks, guys.